Hello Fantasy Managers, and welcome back to another video from myself, Will, and fantasyfootballhub.co.uk. So this week we're going to be having a look at Lundstram and whether we should be selling or holding on to him. We're also going to be having a look at replacements for Leicester assets and whether we should actually be holding on to Leicester assets as well. Also going to be having a look at the upcoming blank game weeks before moving on to my team and my transfers and my captaincy ahead of the upcoming game week. Let's get to it. Okay, first question from Michael there, really simple one. Lundstram, sell or hold? Well, I thought it was worth pulling up this quote from Chris Wilder, which came out after the weekend's fixtures. And it says, "We're covered now for positions-wise with genuine competition all over the park, and players have got to rise to the challenge," which is why I was so thrilled with Lundstram and his attitude to it. So I think this is kind of telling us two things, really. One is that there is competition. With Burge coming in, Lundstram's place is certainly under quite a lot of threat, and there are multiple players that can play in his position now, and that's telling me that his game time, he's not going to be the 90-minute man that he was for a lot of the season. That's not to say that he couldn't come back and he could start. There was this whole thing about Lundstram and wanting to get more money and wanting a better contract. And I think, Wilder basically sent him a message saying, we've got a lot of competition for your place and you've got to now prove that you're worthy of that place in the team. And it sounds like that he has come back with a positive reaction to that, which means that he's going to be challenging for that spot. But, as an FPL asset, we want our FPL assets to be nailed down. The other thing is that he's got such high ownership that because he's not started the last couple of games, people are beginning to sell in their droves. And I can understand that because you don't want 1 points coming into your team. And he's one of those players that you either want playing the whole match or staying on the bench. You don't really want him coming on towards the end of the game. So my feeling towards it is that it's probably, potentially it's a hold for one more week, but he is losing value. So there are a few good options. You could go for someone from Sheffield United, the likes of Egan or O'Connell or Stevens, or you could look at Southampton and go for the likes of Stephens. And I think that that's a really good shout. I've already got Stephens. I've already got Henderson from Sheffield United, so I didn't necessarily want to go back to Sheffield United. I do think there are some really, really good options there. And that's, I was tempted to go that way. The route that I actually went was for Wilfred Bolly, and he's just come back into the starting lineup. He offers a little bit more in terms of bonus and attacking threat than some of the Sheffield United guys. And I had 4.7 in the bank, so I could just about afford him. And that is the way that I went. And I'm pretty happy with that. Wolves got some good upcoming fixtures. I think Bolly being back in the side also makes that Wolves defence a lot stronger. So that's the route I've gone, but there are a lot of good options around Lundstram's price actually. So I think that, if you've got the transfers spare, then for me, he is a sell at the moment. So if you've got transfers spare, and to answer Michael's question, for me, he is a sell. So the first thing I do when I make a transfer is look at the Fantasy Football Hub fixture ticker, and as you can see, Southampton top there. So I would be tempted to look at them for potential replacement. I do actually like Ings. So if you haven't got Ings, I think that he's a very interesting option. Those fixtures are so good. Burnley, Aston Villa, West Ham, Newcastle and Norwich. You couldn't ask for a better run of fixtures. So I think Ings, I know he hasn't been delivering and I've already got him. So he's not a replacement for Vardy. But I do think that he's a very strong option, especially with those fixtures. I'm even considering the likes of Redmond, potentially for a Maddison replacement. I think that he's a bit of a differential option, and he, around this time last year that he really began to hit fire and hit form. And I think that he could be a potentially interesting option. His numbers aren't that good though. So that does have me a little bit worried, but he is pretty cheap now. And, if you're looking to free up a bit of funds, I think that he could be an interesting option. Liverpool, I expect most of you already have 3 Liverpool assets, but if you don't, then you should certainly look there because they have a really, really good run of fixtures. Wolves are the next one down there. And this is something that I'm interested in. I think that you got the likes of Bolly, who I've already mentioned, and Jimenez is the other one, which I think is the standout pick really from Wolves. So I think that for those that don't have Jimenez, and are looking for a Vardy replacement, I think that he is a potentially really good shout. Interestingly, Sheffield United coming in fourth there, even though they have a blank fixture. So they've got really strong fixtures. So if you're looking for a defender, I think that Sheffield United are a very good way to go. And, you know, certainly if you're looking for a goalkeeper, then Dean Henderson could be the shout. I've already got Dean Henderson. One thing I would say to just caveat that is he's got a blank in game week 28, obviously. And of course, he's got a blank as well in game week 31 when they play Man United. So just make sure you have a keeper to cover that if you do go Dean Henderson. The other ones I think are worth pointing out are actually Leicester themselves. Now, they got Wolves away and then Man City at home in the next two. But after that, they go on a very, very good run of fixtures. So potentially it is worth holding on to them. And I think that's kind of what I'm leaning towards, actually. You know, so I've got Maddison, Vardy and Chilwell, and I'm kind of leaning towards probably hanging on to two of those. I do think that Leicester still have a lot to offer, and when their fixtures do improve, they go on a nice run of games. So I'm not completely convinced that we do need to get rid of all of our Leicester assets. I think that at the moment I've got 3, and I think that is too many. But I do still think that Vardy still has something to offer, and, you know, potentially you could even take him out for 2 game weeks. You know, look at the likes of Aubameyang against Newcastle, Everton. So those are 2 really good home fixtures for Arsenal. Hope that Aubameyang delivers, and then actually go back to Jamie Vardy for that Norwich away match. So that's a potential route that you could look at if you've got transfers to spare as well. Okay, moving on then. FPL Sophie asking their blank and double game week. Simple as, and I think that you know, there's a lot of interest on this. You know, we're getting a lot of site hits on Ben Crellin's planner, for example, and all of those resources. And we've got a double game week guide as well on site, so be sure to check those out. So if you do want to see more double game week content, just let me know in the comments, and I might even do potentially a whole series on the double game week section, because it is a really big opportunity for people to get a jump on those rivals. But keeping this at quite a high level, I think obviously, you know, we've got a blank in game week 28. So if you didn't know that, Aston Villa, Arsenal, Sheffield United and Man City already have a blank in game week 28. So those 4 teams aren't going to play in game week 28. So if you are loaded up on those teams, which I don't think a lot of people would, you know, there'll be people with Sheffield United players, and potentially, you know, some City players, and potentially Grealish and potentially Aubameyang. So if you've got a lot of those players, then it is worth noting that and making sure that your transfers over the next couple of weeks bear that in mind. But generally, I think most people will be able to get 11 out in that game week 28. The one that's potentially going to cause a lot more issues is actually game week 31. At the top there, you've got 4 teams which won't blank, and also Norwich and Everton, which are unlikely to blank. So after that, you've got a group of teams which are a potential blank in game week 31, which are Newcastle, Villa, Liverpool, Crystal Palace, Tottenham and West Ham. And then you've got a bigger group of teams which are likely to blank in game week 31. So as you can see, there are going to be a lot of blanks. So I think there are a few different strategies which you can use to navigate blank game week 31, and I know we are quite far away out from this. But, you know, one is to use your free hit chip, and that really doesn't involve much planning. The other one is to almost dead end your team into game week 31 and make sure you have all of your players playing in game week 31, and then hit the wildcard button. So then we'll also have a pretty good understanding of the doubles and blanks following game week 31. So there are going to be more doubles and blanks coming. There could even be a double game week in game week 29, so it's worth watching out for that, and I'll keep you updated in this video. As you can see in the screen below there, you've got that effectively tells you, you know, what needs to happen for teams to get blanks in game week 31. So for example, if Liverpool beat Chelsea in the FA Cup, then they will blank in game week 31 because they're playing the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, so they'll blank against Crystal Palace, and obviously that's quite a big one for us because many people have 3 Liverpool assets. So it's things like that that are important to keep aware of, and yeah, as I say, I'll keep you updated in these videos. So if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button, and also go check out Ben Crellin either on Twitter, or I'd highly recommend downloading his sheet. It's completely free. just go to fantasyfootballhub.com/Crellin. He's also got a personalized planner, which is a member resource where you can actually input your whole team and see, the upcoming fixtures for each of the players in your team, map your transfers in and out over this period. And that's just an incredibly good way to visualize your team and make sure that you're making the most of these double game weeks and really getting a jump on those mini league rivals. But I do hope this kind of gives a sort of a high level summary to what's going on, and just to keep aware of the fact. I think that, as game week 31 becomes more and more clear in terms of what's happening, then the strategy to navigate that game week will become clearer as well. At the moment, I'm sort of just focusing on Game Week 28, making sure that I have a full 11 for that, and not really giving a whole lot of thought to Game Week 31. The other thing that I would strongly suggest checking out is the latest Fantasy Football Hub podcast. So that's on this channel if you want to go watch it on YouTube as well. That includes Double Game Week Extra. Ben Crellin is actually on that podcast, so make sure you go check that out. I'll put a link to it this way, and so you guys can go check that out, and he goes into a lot more detail. But I just wanted to keep this at a fairly high level, and I'll go into more detail in later videos as well, so be sure to subscribe if you're new around here. Okay, moving on to my team then. Now, I got a few questions last week on how's your rank doing, how you're doing this season, because I haven't been displaying my rank, and I think partly it's because I've just been having such a rotten season in so many different ways, and I've kind of explained that into the podcast. But my goal each season is to get a top 10,000 finish, and in previous seasons I've managed to do that. So that's really what I'm going for, and I know that that's not everyone's goal, and some people are happy with top million or whatever it is, or just to win their mini league, and I totally understand. But for me personally, I try and go for that top 10,000 spot each season, and I've really struggled this season. I've been languishing in the plus 2 millions for most of the season, which it's just not where I want to be. The last couple of game weeks I have managed to go from almost 2 million to 700,000, so we are beginning to move in the right direction now, and hopefully I can push on for here and just go for a top 100,000 spot. I'm still in contention in a few mini leagues, so that are my goals. And I think that this time of the year usually is my best time of the year actually. I'm usually very good around the double game weeks, and we've just got so much more data and information which suits my style of play, and the tools on site become even more powerful, and I think that hopefully I can build a good run towards the end of the season. So having said all of that, I did actually make a very big mistake last game week. I had 2 free transfers, and I meant to do Abraham to Jimenez, and for whatever reason it didn't go through, and I was away at the weekend, and I didn't check my team on a Saturday morning, which I usually always do. And the transfer didn't go through. So I didn't lose many points last game week, but I did lose a transfer which really knocked my planning out of kilter, which is a little bit annoying. But what I've done this game week is I brought in 2 Wolves assets. I've got Jimenez and I got Bolly. I took out Lundstram and I took out Abraham. I was also planning to do Madison to potentially Redmond, but I think that's going to have to hold off for one more week. I don't think that's worth a hit. So this is my current team. I've got my captaincy on Salah. I did briefly think about moving for Aguero and captaining him. I think that on balance, he's probably the best captaincy this game week. It's just, is he going to start? Is he going to get enough game time? I think that he probably will start, and I think that he will get a lot of game time. I think that he could do a lot of damage against West Ham. So I think that if I did have Aguero, I probably would captain him. But it's just the age-old problem with Aguero. Is he assured of starts? Is he assured of minutes? And of course, they've got a blank in game week 28, Man City. So it's not a move that I wanted to make. It was one that I was strongly considering, and I might have done if I hadn't messed up that transfer at the weekend. But otherwise, I think my team's in a pretty good shape. I was half planning to wildcard around this time, but I think that I got a lot of the players that I would be looking to get anyways. So I'm going to try and hang on to that wildcard and take advantage of the blank and the double game weeks that are coming up. So it's obviously the winter break, so it's a bit of an extended game week and we won't get all the press conference news, but I hope that you guys have a good game week, and I'll be producing more videos, so make sure you check those out in the coming days and weeks. Bye for now.